Hi, I'm Monty McKinnon. Thanks for joining me, and this is Tea with Monty. We're not going to spin any intro today. We're going to get right into the questions because we got a lot of questions, and they're very good questions. In fact, these may very well be the best questions we've ever had. So let's get a look at this. Now, this one really tickled my heart. This is from Kurt W. Your video today reminded me of gluing myself to various surfaces with super glue throughout my guitar repair career. What's the funniest or most serious case of gluing yourself to something with super glue? And he goes on to say, I bought super glue remover just for such emergencies. I once glued my entire forearm to a sheet of wet dry sandpaper when the bottle fell over and spilled without my noticing it. I only noticed it because of the heat. Glad I didn't glue myself to the bench. Well, let me tell you, I'm glad you didn't glue yourself to the bench, and I hope you didn't burn yourself, because that stuff really does generate a tremendous amount of heat. But to answer your question, I have never really had any accidents. But that's not to say there aren't some in the future. And of course, as you know, doing repair work, you can't build guitars without crazy glue, and I've got an episode coming up on that shortly, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. Kassad, sorry about that. I've butchered your name. I really apologize for that. How do you like YouTube? I love YouTube. It's been a lot of fun. I'm an old guy, and I'm just having a blast. It's like being reborn. It's exciting. It's fun, and you're doing things that you never thought you would do, and I've learned so much from all of this. How long does it take for me to make a guitar from start to finish? If you said to me, here's all the wood, here's all the materials you need, and I came down to the shop Monday morning, I'll give you a finished guitar, like with no finish on it, but a completed guitar a week Friday. It would take me about 2 weeks now because of the jigs that I have and the fact that I can have something drying over here while I'm working on something else over there. Then he goes on to say, can I teach Pete? That's pretty funny. Can I teach Pete how to make a guitar on this channel and help him make it? No. There's no chance that Peter will ever come here and make a guitar because he's just way, way too busy. How long have I been making guitars? For about 12 or 13 years, somewhere in around there. Blaine H. wants to know, do you get treated differently by friends, acquaintances, and new people you meet? No, not really. They all abuse me. And honestly, I did have one funny episode when I walked into an Apple store and somebody greeted me by name and said, hello, Mr. McKinnon. To which I responded thinking, okay, I'm an old guy. I do forget things. Do I know you, or did I forget you? And he says, no, your son is quite famous, and I've seen you on his channel, and I follow you, so I wondered if you would ever come into our store. That was a surprise. I was also in Upper New York State, and I walked into an Apple store in a mall, and again, the people there knew me and were following this channel. That just blew me away because I never really expected anything like that. That's just too funny. So David V asks, your process for making guitars is incredibly detailed. Are you self-taught or did you go to school somewhere to learn? Yes and no. I am self-taught. I did this from reading books, and I do have a background in woodworking, but I've also had help online making guitars from various builders, and I then hooked up with a builder not too far away from where I live, and I worked with him for about 5 years, and built a number of guitars with him. And I learned his technique compared to what I was doing before, and I liked his style better than what I was doing, and he's allowed me to adopt his jigs and use his jigs on my guitars and all of that kind of thing. So that turned out to be great. How did my first guitar turn out, and do I still have it? David, my first guitar could have been used for an anchor on the Titanic. It was so heavy. I was afraid to take the wood down to the thickness that it really requires. And consequently, because of that and not having anybody to ask or any experience at this, what I did is I left it thick. Now, it sounded pretty good. It actually did. But really, I always wanted to take it and nail it to the tree. In the episode that you saw way back last July, you can go back and see where I'm sitting in a red chair and I'm looking at a tree and I'm wanting to make guitars out of this tree. I wanted to nail the guitar to that tree and turn it into a birdhouse. My wife wouldn't let me do that. I don't understand that. Like, that would be so unique and so cool. So what I did is I took the neck off, cut it in half, cut the body in half, and threw it out in the garbage, because really I wouldn't want anybody to see it, play it, or hold it thinking that I made it, because it was really ugly, absolutely ugly. Michael and Pat have asked me about the picture on the wall here. This picture is a picture of my father-in-law on his Suzuki motorcycle. Walt's gone now. He died at 82. Now, he started riding when he was 16. He passed away in April, and his last ride took place the previous November, okay, to him dying in April. So he had a whole lifetime of tuning up motorcycles, pulling them apart, putting them back together, riding. This guy would go like literally a couple of 100 miles for a cup of coffee on his motorcycle. There's one story of when he walked into one coffee shop and took off his helmet, and everybody saw how old Walt was, because he would have been at that time probably around 80. They started to applaud. That's crazy, but he was crazy. Now, here's an interesting little fact. Walt also did machine work, like tuning up motors and all of that kind of stuff, and he also had a whole bunch of woodworking tools, which ended up being given to me by my mother-in-law. And I have used his tools in every single guitar that I've made. There are times where I cannot go forward without a specialized tool, and that man had the tool that I needed. So he's been a part of every single guitar that I've ever made. And I love the guy, miss the guy, but that's why I got his picture up here on the wall. Pat asked about a Wesson-born guitar. Would I ever make a Wesson-born guitar? Well, they were popular back in the 1920s and the 1930s when I was just a young guy. These instruments are highly sought after and very complicated to make. They're like a resonator, but without all the resonator stuff in it. And if you will, it was the early resonator laptop type guitar, steel string guitar. No, I'm probably not going to make one. I don't know much about them, although I must admit my curiosity, I am intrigued, and I could just go ahead and take a look at that and see if that would be of something that is of interest. Now, Greg, I think, is from down under, from what I can tell in the emails, and I hope if that's the case, you're all safe with all those fires that have been raging down there like crazy. And he asked me about the English breakfast tea. And this is Higgins and Burke English breakfast decaf today. And he says to me, I don't hear me saying tickety-boo. Well, I've heard of tickety-boo, but I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, and that's many decades ago, about 3. And so tickety-boo means, okay, all right, it's great, and it's just an expression that I have not used, but I do understand that it is something that people do say from time to time. Now, also, I was asked this question about my hands, and Greg says, with your hand tremor issues, in the last video that you did on Stay Alert at the Table Saw, if you haven't seen that, you want to see that, because you better pay very close attention to what you're doing with that jig, or you could end up walking around like this. So he asked me about handles on the jig, and you know, like my hands were close to the saw. I was very careful. And the way it's set up, I'm pulling it against the fence away from the blade and sliding it along. But he said to me, he said, I could draw you a sketch for some handles. And he did, and he sent them to me. Greg, thank you for that. And I have not made those handles yet, but I will be before I use that jig again, because it's a smart play to have your hands up and away from the saw. He also wants to know if there are any drill press updates. So does Norm J. Yes, I bought a drill press, and I ended up going with a desktop model. It's a Rikon drill press, and I like it very much. It works terrific. It's a variable speed, but we'll get into all of that later on. Carl, you said you've picked up several woodworking tips from watching my videos. Well, that's great. I'm thrilled to hear that. Can I share those tips and videos with my friends? Well, by all means, please do. That's the whole purpose of this. Let's get everybody involved and shoot it out there. I'm all for everybody making guitars, but I'm also more interested in you following your hobby, your passion, and doing things. So yes, share this with anybody you wish, and share it, folks, with your parents. Maybe your mom and dad will end up going down into their shop and buying a kit and building a guitar. Brian T. is from Aruba, and he wants to know if I will be making a video on building electric guitars. Brian, the answer is yes, I will. Now, if you go back in previous videos, you'll see an unboxing fail where I'm holding the body of a Les Paul guitar, and I've got the neck, and I'm kind of putting it together like this. The purpose of that was for me to buy a kit because I didn't have the templates that I needed. I can get them off drawings and that, and it takes a while. So to speed up the process, I bought the kit. I'm going to trace out everything. I'm going to measure everything, and I'm going to make templates so that I can make electric guitars faster in the future. Then my plan is to take that guitar, put it together, and give it away. So we'll see what happens with that. But yes, you're going to see a video on how that happens. Joseph E. asked, do I take custom orders? Well, the answer is yes. How long would he have to wait? Probably 6 to 12 months, but it could be less. It all depends on how busy I am, what kind of guitar we're working with, what kind of wood we're working with, and all of those variables that come into play, and that it's at the right time of year. Kevin, he asked if I would take on an apprentice. Kevin, yes and no. Yes, I would like to, but no, I can't do it right now. I just honestly don't have the time to take on an apprentice. I want to do something a little different here. I want a new segment, and I announced this back in the summer, and I got a response from a couple of you that sent me some photographs. I would like to see your shop. I'd like you to take some pictures in your shop. I don't care how big it is. I don't care how small it is. Take some pictures and send me 2, 3, or 4 pictures of your shop and the tools, and tell me a little bit about what you're making in that shop. I'm going to do a tour all through my shop and show you all the cupboards and show you all the drawers and everything that I've got going on in here, and so that you get to see everything that's back here and what I like about this shop and what I don't like about this shop. But you may have a shop that has some ideas in it that I can look at and improve what we're doing here, and that would be terrific. So will you please shoot along some of those pictures, and when I get some, I'll put together 2 or 3, and we could get a segment up every month. In this video, there are links down below. If you want to write me, you can write me anytime. The email address is down below. Now, we're really going to have some fun, because can you see down in here? Okay, I've got some Higgins and Burke tea here. It's an English breakfast. I've got a biscuit with some dark chocolate on it. Oh, yes. I've got some keto chocolate. Yeah, keto. Now, I do follow a keto diet, basically, and so I looked at this morning, and I thought, keto says we can have anything with berries in it, so I thought, oh, strawberries, that would be good. I don't know about the custard or the shell, but let's not tell my wife. Okay, promise? We're not going to tell her. and we're going to have a little bit of libation here. And so we're going to get into this right now, and then we're going to have some tea. I'm so glad you came by. It's always good to have friends drop by. And let me tell you, I have the feeling, oh, oh dear. You know what? If you tell my wife what I'm doing here, the guitar videos are all going to come to an abrupt end. Well, here's to you, my friends. Thank you so much for showing up, and we'll see you in the next video. By the way, we're putting on the armrest in the next video. It's going to be a good one. Thanks. Bye for now. Oh, English breakfast tea. Oh, dear. I'm sure custard is a food group. And chocolate, dark chocolate, yeah, that's got to be a food group. Absolutely. I'm in heaven.